Today I'm bringing guys a brand new sports cards video. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down, in my opinion, what is to be the best card investments in the month of April 2022. Now, before we get into that, you guys know me. I have to plug my membership program because I genuinely think a lot of people could be really benefiting from joining the program. Now, one of our really, in our ultra high-end membership, which is essentially our $10,000+ picks, we have memberships for all different tiers. Whether you have $100 or $100,000 to invest, we have tiers for everybody. But in our ultra high-end membership report on August 22nd of 2021, we recommended our members to buy up Joe Montana's 1981 Topps in a PSA 10 for $45,000. The most recent sale is $114,000. The last four sales have all been above $85,000, ranging between $85,000 and most recently $114,000. So if you guys would like to join in on the program, make some money with us. We've had a lot of picks that have done very, very well, mainly over the last few months, but in general, we've been hitting on quite a lot of picks. So if you would like to make some money with us, the link is down below to sportscardsinvest.com. Their memberships for all different people. The $9.99 membership, which is the cheapest one, is actually on sale right now for $6.99. So if you did want to join, you will automatically get 30% off. But without further ado, we're gonna hop right into this video. So the first card that I believe right now is a very good investment is Ben Simmons 2016 Select Silver, PSA 10, PSA 9, whatever fits your budget. But I definitely think Ben Simmons has the opportunity to see a big price increase. As we know, Ben Simmons was traded to the Brooklyn Nets, and he has yet to play a game on the Nets. However, there are a lot of rumors, and essentially he's been progressing a lot, and people believe that he will be back before the end of this series. Hopefully, by game 4, game 5 is when I've heard. But obviously this Nets-Celtics series has all the eyes, all investors' eyes to that series. And I definitely think Ben Simmons is a player, who in the card market overall is quite disrespected in terms of his prices compared to other young stars, and especially given the population reports of his cards compared to other young stars. For example, if we're comparing, his cards to Luka Doncic, his cards have about a 1/10 population for most of his cards. If we go ahead and hop into Card Ladder, Ben Simmons, his Prism rookie card in a PSA 10, we're going to check the pop right now, is 1,340. And if we look at Luka Doncic and his 2018 Prism, his pop is around 18,000, as we see. So the pop is super low for Ben Simmons, and what that means is when investors' eyes are on his cards, when there is demand, his cards can go up much higher because the supply is much lower. So it's just classic supply and demand. For a card with such a low supply, when there is demand, prices are going to go up. And if we look to Ben Simmons and his Select Silvers, right now there's a pop of 174. So there needs to not be that much demand for the prices to go up because the pop is so low. So I definitely think it's a good time to be buying in. All eyes are on the Nets this year. All eyes are on the Nets-Celtics series right now. And all eyes are on Ben Simmons for his return because he is an all-star caliber player that is hitting the court for the first time in a very long time on a championship contender. So I think it's a good time to be buying these up where they're currently sit. But without further ado, we're hopping right into the next pick, and that's going to be Chris Paul and his 2005 first edition Topps in a PSA 10. So, or PSA, when I say PSA 10, I'm just going by the base standards. If you have, a different budget where you can only afford to buy the PSA 8 or the PSA 9, you're still probably going to see the same percentage increase. So I just want to put that out there because a lot of people in the comment section below will be like, hey, you're just talking about these $2,000 cards, when in reality, when I'm talking in general about a player, it's always a good time to be, I'm kind of making that general statement across all of his cards. So I think Chris Paul is a very good buy right now, and that is due to the Suns' schedule right now. So as we know, the Suns had the first seed by a miles, and they're looking like one of the strong contenders out of the Western Conference. Now, the good thing about them for this playoffs is that they're only really having to get by the Pelicans, which I personally say is a given. I know it can be hard to assume, but I definitely think the Suns have it against the 8 seed Pelicans. And then next round is going to be either against the Mavericks or the Utah Jazz. And if we look at the Suns, I don't think they will really have a problem with the Jazz or the Mavericks. So that essentially, if all goes well, they should at least be in the Western Conference Finals. And by the time you're in the Western Conference Finals, there's 4 teams left, right? So there's only 4 teams left, and investors across the board are looking for the stars on those 4 teams. So all demand in the market, instead of being across 30 teams, all demand is going to be focused on, say, the 4 superstars on these 4 different teams. And Chris Paul is one of them, right? So even if there's 6 or 8 different superstars on these 4, championship contender teams that are in the conference finals, that's a lot of demand for such little cards. And Chris Paul, of course, is a player who doesn't have that many investable rookie cards. I would say he has his Bowman Chrome, which is a go-to, his Topps Chrome, which is a go-to, his Topps, and then his Topps First Edition, which has a super low population. So if you're buying these up, I would definitely think it's very easy for the demand to meet where the supply is, because there hardly is any supply. And if all investors are focused on those 4 teams in the conference finals, you're going to see a good price increase for Chris Paul's First Edition card. So I definitely think this is a very good buy right now. But without further ado, we will go ahead and hop right into the next pick, and that would be Devin Booker and his 2015 Hoops. So, of course, Devin Booker is another superstar on hopefully one of the 4 championship contender teams. So I definitely think there's a good amount of demand that's going to be around the Suns if they do make it to the conference finals, which I don't think is that big of a stretch. And Devin Booker does not have many investable options. And the cards that he does have, the population reports are very low. So if we look at Devin Booker, he has pretty much his select courtside, his Prism Silver, and then his Hoops is usually where investors go when demand's on the Suns, as we saw last year when the Suns made the finals. So this has a pop right now of 486, which is very low for a championship contender superstar, for a superstar who's on a championship contender. And, at $182, I think it's going to be very tough for these to not do well. Given if the supply is so low, demand should be there. And as we see, we're already starting to see these trend upward. I definitely think going into the, as we progress through the playoffs, we're going to see these continue to trend up, because those who can no longer afford, for example, Devin Booker's Prism or his Select, which are both well into the hundreds of dollars, I think a lot of attention is going to go towards his other cards, such as his Hoops cards. And I definitely think as teams become very good, as funny as it sounds, there are a lot of bandwagons that will now become Devin Booker fans. New people watching basketball that will now become Suns fans because they're playing so well, right? And I think that's really going to cause an increase in their prices. An increase in their fan base is obviously going to cause an increase in their prices. And another sleeper pick that I have not included in my report, but I think is a very good buy right now, is Devin Booker's 2015 Donruss, for the same reasons, but I just think this card's a little bit overlooked currently, just because not many hit the market. But as we're seeing right now, there is a lot of demand that's starting to come to it. So I think, it does depend on where you're sitting in terms of capital. But I definitely believe that's a good buy. And then, of course, along those same lines, you have Deandre Ayton. I think he's obviously going to be a big benefactor, especially in some series in which the Suns are up against a team without a very good big. And we see that often, especially when, for example, the Suns play the Warriors, or the Suns play, the Mavericks or the Jazz, or not the Jazz, but the Mavericks. You definitely see DeAndre Ayton getting fed the ball a lot more than usual. And if they do end up facing the Warriors with, a 6'7" Draymond Green trying to guard Ayton, it's going to be I would say his stats are going to do very well, in the simplest terms. I think DeAndre Ayton's a young player. There's a lot of eyes on the Suns right now. And at some point, if, the Suns continue to have this success, the Suns play such great team basketball that it's hard to really give all the credit to Booker and Chris Paul when you see guys like Mikal Bridges, Deandre Ayton playing such a key role into, the Suns' success. So I definitely think there's going to be a lot of demand around Ayton's cards. I think a lot of his cards are very undervalued compared to, for example, where his base Prism is. One example of that is his green Prism PSA 9. That is a pop of just $195 that is sitting at just $25. I think that's kind of a no-brainer in my personal opinion. That market cap is just extremely low. Overall, a very good time to be buying Ayton, in my opinion, especially given he's due for a big contract extension, or the Suns will unfortunately possibly have to get rid of him if they can't pay up. So I think it's a good situation for Ayton's personal cards, and I definitely think his cards are just extremely undervalued for him being a key role in what most people believe to be the best team in the league. So without further ado, we are going to hop right into this next pick, and that is going to be Anthony Edwards. And there's quite a lot I wanted to say about this, more of a more broad topic I wanted to discuss around this card in general, is that a lot of, in general, markets, right? Stock market, card market, they depend on expectations a lot. So supply and demand is really based on expectations. How do you expect Anthony Edwards to perform? How do you expect the Timberwolves to perform? And I personally believe when you're buying into a card like this card is priced as if the Timberwolves are not going to beat the Grizzlies, or the Timberwolves are not going to go very far in the playoffs, because that is the expectation. And if they're able to exceed the expectations, you see prices go up. Same thing with stocks, same thing with cards. So a lot of the times, for example, the Suns last year, nobody really expected them to make the finals. When they made the finals, we saw a lot bigger of an increase in their cards compared to the Milwaukee Bucks, because the Milwaukee Bucks were more so expected to make the finals, or at least expected to have a good chance at making the finals. So when you exceed expectations, you see your prices do very well. And right now, the Timberwolves are not expected to beat the Grizzlies. However, I think there is a good chance, or at least some chance, that they do end up beating the Grizzlies. And if they do end up winning a playoff series, for a guy like Anthony Edwards, I think his cards are really going to do well. He's already, shown to be a guy who steps up in big situations. He had a great game one. I believe he had like 36 points. So there's a lot of attention around him right now. And I think if he continues to exceed expectations, we're going to see his cards really go up. And as we see here, some of his cards are still sitting very low. So we see this right here, lower than it was, for example, in February, when we see Anthony Edwards Prism Silver has already gone up, right? So this card went from around 870 to around 1154 as the last comp. So if his Prism Silver is already starting to go up, I definitely believe his Hoops is gonna, follow the same trend. I believe all of his other cards that haven't gone up yet are going to go up. So I think it's a good time to be buying up Anthony Edwards Hoops, PSA 10s, PSA 9s. But I really hope you guys did enjoy this video. Once again, if you would like to join in on the program, the link is down below to sportscardsinvest.com. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm out. Peace.